Who would you say are your political role models in Parliament?
May I start by saying the political role models outside Parliament?
Oh yeah.
My background has been with international relations. I've worked
Yeah.
internationally for 35 years, so I have quite a regard for leaders who have promoted global unity in various ways. And my particular role model in that respect would have to be Dag Hammarskjöld, the UN Secretary General of the mid-20th century, who articulated a theory and a whole conceptual framework for what he calls a constitutional framework for international cooperation through the United Nations and through global unity. There are others with charisma, Kennedy, Gorbachev especially, Obama, but that's at the international scene. In the New Zealand Parliament, one of the reasons I was happy to join the Green Party and get involved in green politics is because of the role model that Jeanette Fitzsimons has consistently displayed over the last 10, 20 years. Political integrity, political vision, political strength that is largely often overlooked, and retaining personal integrity at the same time, which is why people in New Zealand vote her as the most trusted politician. You mean across parties, other parties? I tell you now, I have a very high regard for former national cabinet minister, Sir Douglas Graham, and there are others. I've always admired Helen Clark and known Helen for many years, and so it goes. But you can reach out across political parties and establish a good rapport and a good operational rapport with other MPs across party, and in fact that's absolutely critical to the functioning of Parliament.
All right, that's great. So what's your stance on the future of MMP?
I'm confident that the New Zealand public will recognise it for what it is, which is an opening up of the electoral system to ensure inclusiveness as opposed to exclusiveness. And if there's a trade-off in efficiency, then there's an optimal balance to be struck, but it is not to be struck by throwing out the bedrock of inclusiveness and representation from all aspects of society. We're becoming far more heterogeneous as a society. It would be really retrogressive to go back to first past the post in the proclaimed name of efficiency. That doesn't work. You make MMP more efficient. MMP works very well. I've just come from negotiating with other parties on procedural aspects of urgency today as a whip. It works. And if you only had two parties, it might be simpler. That just suggests that simpler minds might prefer it. You've got to have representation in Parliament. You've then got to make sure that it operates. It's pretty stable in New Zealand. It isn't revolving door government. The New Zealand public and the parliamentarians know very well that you need to have a bedrock of stability, you need to have representation, you need to get an optimal balance of how that works.
Okay. How about the smacking referendum? Where do you stand on that?
It's not a smacking referendum.
Mm-hmm.
Is it?
No, it's not.
What is it?
The Section 59, it's about the rights of children.
Child protection.
Yeah, child protection.
And avoiding abuse. And I lived in Sweden for 3 years. You didn't smack your children. It's a civilized society. We'll get there one day. The bill, it's interesting, isn't it? Because the bill has become a political football. When the political football is tossed onto the field, and we all rush around madly with different colours on our jerseys, you tend to lose a rational and reasoned, insightful view of what it actually is all about, and including the wording of the bill itself. And nothing is ever perfect, which is why you've got a compromise between parties. The people on both sides of the debate, using the wrong terminology and engaging in adversarial strutting as opposed to the reasoned debate to get a common ground, are not doing it justice. The bill allows reasonable force for certain purposes. It does not include correction. If it includes smacking or not, which is the political football, that's the issue that there is inherent police powers to take care of. I think it's sufficient in itself just to proceed with the bill as it currently is, just as the government and the Prime Minister has said. Green Party has always said that. But even in the event that you changed it, you would not wish to go back to where we were, where parents could in fact abuse the children with severe physical, on occasion, severe physical abuse, and get away with it with impunity. Say what we want. You don't want that.
Or do you think that the government should be taking more stock in the results of the referendum then?
Well, they have taken stock, as far as I can see. The fact that a certain number of people believe on a certain point doesn't impose an immediate, mandatory, binding obligation to jump, for the government to jump. There is a thing called political judgment, and it wasn't an overwhelming, unanimous cry from the whole of New Zealand. So it therefore comes back to political judgment, and that's what parliamentarians are there for. Vote them out, vote us out, vote me out, but let's recognise the constitutionality of where we're at. How did I
get into parliamentary politics in New Zealand?
I was overseas for the better part of 35 years, and for various reasons, including personal reasons, it was time we thought to come home to New Zealand, and I wanted to, basically it was a gathering conviction over the plight of the planet, simple as that, and the need to do everything you can as an individual to turn the tide around. And I was actually sitting in the UN Secretariat building in New York when I learned that I was offered a fellowship at the University of Canterbury to come home and do some research and some teaching. And I accepted that, and then the next act, and sitting at the desk, was to join the Green Party, because it was the first time I felt free. I'd been a diplomat and a UN official and so on. So when I knew I was coming home and I was going to go into academia, and basically for the first time in my life, fairly late in the career, I thought, well, I want to do more than simply research and teach. I want to become politically active, joined the Green Party, and it just went from there. But it is, in a sense, I started working on issues like climate change, ozone depletion, sustainability, along with the other areas that I had in the past, nuclear-free zones and so on, since the late 80s. So it's been 20 years or so working on this, and it really is now just the political implementation of what I've been doing for some time.
Okay. You need to